Hello everyone, welcome to week 3 of the RIAK Power Ranking Data Collection Series. For anyone that is new to these sessions, my name is Rich. I'm the head coach of RIAK Fitness and the founder. I'll be running the session this evening, and all these Power Ranking Project Series sessions really. Yeah, not much to tell you by way of update. Tonight's session we're going to be focusing on 1 minute power. We'll explain what I'm on about there, and I will explain a little bit more as a reminder of what the Power Ranking Project is about in due course. For now, just get yourself ready. Nothing really to think about. I've got a nice 10-minute kind of cruising warm-up with some fast pedaling efforts. So you've got probably at least 15 minutes until things get properly serious. So plenty of time for me to kind of explain what we're up to and a little bit more about the Power Ranking Project. So it's about 30 seconds to go. Now, for people joining on the various kind of channels, we've got Zoom, we've got live streams, etc., etc. This is an interactive session, so if you do have questions at any point, do feel free to ask. For the guys on Zoom, feel free to unmute yourself or use the Zoom chat. Anyone can use the RGT chat. And then for those guys following the live stream, you can leave comments in the comment section and we'll pick those up, along with often some very dodgy adverts. We usually get sent links to some very dodgy adverts over the comment section. Some of them are very amusing actually. I used to find it very annoying, but actually I find it quite funny. Anyway, off we go then. So we've got a great session for this evening. So we're going to be focusing in on 1 minute power this evening. So what's that? So I'll just have a quick little run through the energy systems again and the different peak powers, etc., and the point of power ranking project. So for anybody that is really familiar with this stuff and has been coming to our sessions for a long time, feel free to switch off for a little bit. But if anyone that's new or relatively new or just needs a bit of a refresher, so what are we talking about when we're talking about 1 minute power? Well, we're focusing in on what are called your critical powers or your peak powers, and essentially what that means is it's your personal best over specific durations. So in this instance we're focusing in on 1 minute. The other key peak powers that we're focusing in on are your 5 minute power, your FTP, and your 5 second power. Yeah, I think that's right. I'm full of cold at the moment, so the old brain's not working, so apologies if I make mistakes or just forget what I'm thinking about. I'm about 70% snot at the moment, so forgive me for that. I'll do my best. So those are your critical powers. So basically, you've got those 4 kind of key powers, those 4 kind of personal bests over specific durations, and what they roughly relate to different metabolic changes in your body, different ways of producing energy. So the first one, your FTP, I think we're all largely familiar with that expression in some respect, particularly if you're on RGT. You know, you need an FTP in order to use RGT, and that basically is the tipping point at which you go from, working largely with enough oxygen to buffer the build-up of lactate, to working more and more in the absence of oxygen. It's that tipping point where things start to get a bit horrible, basically. It's your aerobic threshold is another expression. That's FTP. So FTP actually, guys, reflects your 60-minute power. Now, we often do a 20-minute test or a ramp test or what have you, but actually your FTP is meant to reflect the power you can hold for a full hour. Okay, so when we're talking FTP, we're talking the power that you can hold for 60 minutes, 60, albeit you might test for it with a shorter effort. So actually FTP, your 5 minute power reflects what's called your VO2 max, the maximum volume of oxygen that you can kind of use at any one point, essentially. That's why I say roughly, because actually people might hit their VO2 max ceiling sooner, but really a 5 minute effort full gas, you're going to get to that for your VO2 max at some point. Your VO2 max is kind of like the second tipping point. From beyond your VO2 max, you're basically almost entirely anaerobic. Okay, you're producing energy in the absence of oxygen. That takes us on to our 1 minute power, which we're focusing in on today, and I will explain in more depth. But your anaerobic capacity, that's what we're looking at for the 1 minute power. So as the phrase suggests, it's the total amount of work you can do in an anaerobic state before basically your aerobic systems need to lend more and more a hand. Okay, so your 1 minute power generally is reflective of the type of work that you can do in an anaerobic state. And then finally, that 5 second power is testing what's called your neuromuscular power. It's your max effort sprint. It utilises what's called your phosphocreatine system. It's explosive, in short. Okay, we're not looking at that too much, if at all, really, in this session. That's for a session that's coming up. So that's your peak powers, that's your critical powers. And now the power ranking project, and it's really interesting actually, because I think it was last week, Training Peaks introduced something. I've been getting a lot of messages about it. So basically, Training Peaks have recently released a new kind of chart which shows how your peak powers rank in terms of percentile. And I have to admit, I haven't spent too much time looking into the chart. I had a quick glance of it, and my impression was it's basically a kind of rehash of data that was already available. It's just logging your efforts as a percentile. You know, you're in the 97th percentile or whatever for 5 minute power, and it's roughly derived from what's called the Coggan chart. So Andy Coggan is a very well-known exercise physiologist, and basically, the power ranking project is about trying to create a little bit of competitiveness between people who might not race. You know, training might be their racing, and so it's just an attempt to just try and create a little bit of competitiveness. So everybody's data is de-anonymized to a certain extent. Don't worry, we're not sharing like your home address and all that sort of stuff. We just share basically your age category, so within a 5-year spread, what country you're in, and then kind of what your peak powers are in watts per kilo. And basically the point of that is so that if you're getting gassed in an e-race every week by the same person, and you're like, what the hell do I have to do to beat that person? Hopefully they will have contributed to the power ranking table, power ranking project, and you'll be able to see. And then you'll be able to see, their 5-minute power is 50 watts higher than mine. That's what I've got to do. I really look to improve my VO2 max power. So that's kind of the idea behind it. And so really, we're looking for, friends to start like battling it out, trying to beat each other. And the idea is just to make training a little bit more competitive, and also a little bit more, just make this stuff a little bit more applicable to the amateur cyclist. Because the problem with the Coggan tables and the blue chart on Training Peaks is it's basically judging you in the whole universe of cycling, and what it means is that actually the vast majority of us amateur cyclists are right down the bottom, and the spread is so large that it's hard to know where you sit within that realm of amateur cycling. So our goal is to change that, make it a little bit more specific, a little bit more localized, and hopefully a bit more fun. So you can also see how well balanced you are as a rider, and the idea is it all helps you along, and then we obviously try and plug training plans along the way. No such thing as a free dinner, but if you go to the Power Ranking Project page on our website, RIAK.fitness, you will see there's free workouts on there to help you collect your data. We're obviously running this series as well to help you, and this series actually will be made available for free on our website once we've finished. So the workouts and the recordings of these sessions as well will all be made available. Basically, why are we doing this? Well, as I said, to try and blog a few programs to get our name out there a bit more, but also because it's fun. We just sort of thought we're getting annoyed, that this data isn't available. I can't really see how my athletes rank against their immediate competitors, and so I thought, wouldn't it be fun to try and change that? So that's what this is all about, guys. Tonight we're focusing on 1 minute power, and so that brings me to the session itself. We're now at the top step of the warm-up, so we're up to around 72% of FTP, so you should feel like a solid 4 out of 10 effort, 10 being a max level sprint, and then in about a minute and 20 seconds we're going to do what's called a fast pedaling effort. Now basically the point of the fast pedaling effort is to speed up, is to lift your default cadence. So at the moment, hopefully you're spinning upwards of 80 RPM. These VO2 surges that we've got, they're 30 seconds long, so there's a bit of juice behind them. They're quite hard. They'll be like a 9 out of 10 effort, or the power target is 113% of FTP. Okay, they're 30 seconds with some easy riding in between, and they're just basically to rev your legs up, lift your default cadence, and basically get you ready for the hard work to come. There's a little break before we start that build, and that's what we call a pre-main set or a primer set. And what we're doing there is that every minute we're just going to go up through the training zones from zone 3, around 80% of FTP, up to sweet spot at 90%, up to threshold, and then just do like a little 15-second sort of kind of sprint for 15 seconds until we've got a nice long cruising sector for 5 minutes. It's then in that cruising sector I'm going to encourage you to turn the erg mode off. More about that in a bit. Now though, it's the fast pedaling effort, so let's get that cadence well above 100 RPM. It's a VO2 effort, so there should be some real power behind it. You should be working pretty hard, but ultimately focusing on spinning up the legs. Last few seconds. Good stuff. And that has immediately told me I am not yet well enough to train. I turn my FTP right down for this night's session, as I always do for these coach sessions. But just even that little lift in power, not feeling that. Hopefully you are though. So we will be turning erg mode off once we get through that build and sprint sector. For now, you don't need to think about it. If you're not sure what erg mode is, I'll show you when the time comes how to turn it off. And it's only for people that are riding a smart trainer or a smart bike. If you've got like a power meter and non-smart trainer combo, you can ignore the whole erg mode chat. But for those with a smart trainer or a smart bike, you will need to turn erg mode off at some point, and I'll tell you when. And I'll also explain a little bit more about the session. But let's get through to fast pedaling efforts. Number 2 coming up. So let's lift the cadence. Got in there, guys. You can see the target cadence is 110 RPM, but obviously it's a very hard effort, 113% of FTP. So just really gas it, and you'll naturally need to lift that cadence. But try and get somewhere near that target. Here we go, last 10. 2, 1. Okay, good stuff, well done, okay. So just a minute of cruising before we hit the final fast pedaling effort. Now this session, we're focusing on 1 minute power, and you can see straightforward in terms of approach, just multiple 1 minute efforts. Now, in that 5 minute cruising sector, I'm going to explain in depth how we're going to approach this, but there's going to be basically, I guess, 2 ways you can do this. Okay, those who want to follow the exhaustion protocol, and those who just want to keep it simple and go for it, basically do as many reps as they fancy. But it doesn't really matter what your approach, it's that first rep that we are going to be focusing on, and it's kind of the whole point of the session. Okay, so when it comes up to that first 1 minute rep, I want you to give absolutely everything you can. Don't focus on, think about anything else. More about that to come. Final fast pedaling effort. Here we go. So get it going, guys. Try and stay relaxed in your upper body. Just really spin those legs up. Last 10 seconds. Done. So just 1 more minute again until we start that pre-main set, that primer set. Now our primer set is, I think was it last week I explained roughly how we structure sessions. I can't remember. Let's say not really with it today. I think it might actually be in our squad session. One of our athletes I described it. But basically a pre-main set, guys, is kind of like an extension of the warm-up. It's kind of like a bit of a taster of things to come. Usually a bit harder than anything in the warm-up, and usually followed by a fair bit of steady state riding. So you basically kind of go above threshold and then have a bit of recovery afterwards. And again, it's all just about kind of, blowing the cobwebs out, getting you ready, similar to kind of for a race, I guess. And I think that's the way to think about it. That 1 minute effort, that first one, is kind of like your do or die effort. Imagine you're on the track or something. Pre-main set has begun. Up we go to tempo, so around 80% of FTP. This should feel like a 6 out of 10 effort. We're into what's called zone 3. Do our little training zone shot. So we're into zone 3, 80% of FTP, so it's a strong effort. And as the description says, it should be, if you were required to, you struggle to talk. It's that sort of effort where if you're on a training ride and you're riding at tempo and someone's talking to you, you start to think, I wish this person would just shut up. Often if you're riding with someone that's a bit stronger than you, that's kind of where you spend most of the ride, I guess. So that tempo at the moment, then we're going to go up to the cuts for zone 3 and zone 4. up to sweet spot around 90% of FTP. Then we're going to hit that threshold, and then we're going to dip into that sort of zone 6/zone 7 for the little sprint. And now there. That's right, there we go. Just focus on keeping that cadence nice and high. So upwards of 90 RPM now, please. Please. Not a teacher. If you want, do what you want, guys. Ideas about my station there. Okay, 30 seconds left. At sweet spot. Then we're going up to threshold, and then we've just got like a little anaerobic effort. 15 seconds at the end. So try and add an extra 5 RPM with each lift. So if you're around 90 now, in the next step, let's try and lift that up to closer to 100 or at least 95. Getting ready to lift in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Okay, so up to threshold. So let's lift that cadence up by about 5 RPM, and up to go to our FTP. Should feel like an 8 out of 10 effort. In essence. Quick check of the chats. No worries, Seamus. Got your name right this week. Well, don't know why I wanted to call you Simon, but I did. Desperately and repeatedly. But also, I've just seen a ton of those adverts come through. Is this it? They're listening. Anyway, right. Little anaerobic effort coming up. So really rev up those legs, get well up to around 100 RPM, and get ready to open up the taps a little bit. Here we go. Come on, guys. Got a nice little cruising sector after this. 10 seconds. Okay, and relax. Back down to 65% of FTP, sort of cruising effort, zone 2 as we like to call it. Okay, keep your cadence upwards of 80 RPM, but just otherwise, just relax, shake out the arms, get the fluids back on board, just chill out for a few minutes, guys. So at this point, I would suggest you start to think about turning erg mode off. Now there is a shortcut that you can use in the bottom menu, but just be careful with that, guys, because if you turn erg mode off and turn it back on, there was a bug in RGT that would then skip forwards on the interval. I don't know if it's been resolved. I have raised it. I'm not sure if it's been resolved yet. So just be careful using that. Personally, I always go to the sensors menu, and then there's this green tab here. This is for anyone with a smart bike or a smart trainer. And then you just turn that off. Okay, I'm going to leave it on because, yeah, I just need to keep my effort nice and low, and I'll get carried away. But if you're on a smart trainer or smart bike, turn that tab off now. Okay. If you're on a power meter and non-smart trainer combo, don't worry about it if you don't have erg mode. Okay, just ignore that. So get it turned off if you do have a smart bike or smart trainer, and just start getting used to the topography. It's a pan flat course, so you should be absolutely fine finding a gear and keeping a nice high cadence, and just sitting at a relatively constant power. Don't worry if it is peaking and dropping a bit. Just for the wave mic. Cheers, guys. Thanks very much. It's nice when I get a wave. So this session, it's all about that first rep, guys. Okay, that is where we are looking to get our personal best over 1 minute. That's why erg mode needs to be off. If erg mode is on, it's going to limit you to, let me just double check. If erg mode is on, it's going to lift you to 150% of FTP, and hopefully we'll get beyond that. Or conversely, maybe your anaerobic system isn't that well conditioned. 150 might be too high. Basically, we want this 1 minute effort to reflect where you're at. Okay, so I guess in short, ignore the power target really, it's kind of arbitrary. We just have to put something in. So you can really ignore the power target and just go as hard as you can for 1 minute. Don't pace yourself. It's the idea is it's meant to be your anaerobic capacity. So one of the things you want to look at after the session is at what point your power starts to really drop off. Okay, and that's going to show you that maybe 30, 40 seconds full gas is kind of all you got. And again, that's another feature of training that anaerobic energy system, is being able to hold the high power for longer. So you've got the first foot where you're just not thinking about anything else, not thinking about the rest of the session. It's do or die, everything you got for the first minute. Now for the subsequent minutes sets, guys, we put in what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do as many as you want, okay? What we are working on, the idea of this session, the underlying purpose of this session, when we're not just focused on that first interval, is about speed endurance. It's about repeatability, which is a really important racing skill. Your ability to recover from anaerobic effort and go again. For those that are more experienced and need a bit more of a objective way of determining whether they're done or not, there is an exhaustion protocol for this session. And that means after the third interval, really take stock of what your average power is for that third interval, because that third interval will be reflective of what you can actually put out in a race. And then from the third interval onwards, you want to stay within 12% of that average power. I'll repeat that when we get there, hopefully if I remember. But that's if you want to complicate the session and you're a bit more experienced and you want to make sure your session is perfectly high quality. And then basically, after that third rep, if you drop below that 12% deficit, that's you done. Okay? But if you're not bothered about that, guys, just do as many as you want, do all 8. Yeah, we just like to add that. To be honest, we only use those exhaustion protocols for our really experienced athletes. Generally, people just forget or don't really care enough. So right, here we go then. First interval is coming up in 5 seconds. Rev up the legs. Get ready to drop the hammer. In 2, 1. Here we go. Come on, guys. This is it. This is the big interval of the session. This is where we want that 1 minute peak power. So do not let up. Just absolutely hammer it. Come on. Nice high cadence. Okay, coming up to halfway, 30 seconds, come on, lift it again, come on, kick. Finishing sprint when you've got 10 seconds to go, okay, 20 seconds. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Ready to kick. In 2, 1, finishing sprint, come on, come on. Go for it. Come on, all the way, all the way. Good. Well done. And relax. Good stuff, everyone. Good stuff. So hopefully, yeah, they're going off and you were just gunning it. So the average power for that interval, hopefully, is going to give you a 1 minute personal best. And you just want to write that number down, keep it handy, and then hopefully contribute. If you go to the Power Ranking Project, you contribute that data if you wish, along with your other peak powers if you collected them, or wait until the end of this series and then contribute them then. Guys, that's the big one. Now from here on, we are working on your speed endurance. So it's a really key skill. It doesn't really matter what type of racing you do. You know, anaerobic endurance is always, it's pretty much always important. There's so many different contexts in which it matters, even if you're like a proper diesel engine time trialist. You know, any kind of climb, you know, you're going to be out of that saddle, driving up it, going anaerobic probably, unless it's a particularly long climb. If you're UK based, we don't have many long climbs, so it's usually anaerobic. So yeah, it doesn't really matter. It only matters to the extent that depending on your type of racing, you might do more or less of this stuff in training. That's really what it comes down to. But you should always, regardless of your focus, be doing some sort of anaerobic training, whether it's just sprinkled into other sessions or doing purely focused anaerobic sets. Really depends on your focus. But yeah, we're basically trying to see from here on how many you can do and staying within a reasonable level. So I said about that exhaustion protocol, if you want to take this properly seriously, do the next rep and then the third rep, and then make sure you check what your average power is at the end of the rep. So you'll notice at the end of each interval, it's only up very briefly, but your average power for that interval does come up. Personally, I would like that to be on screen for much longer, that you can start to employ these more scientific methodologies of training. But yeah, that's what you're going to do. So just do it as a practice run on this next rep. Obviously just go full gas, but just try and remember to have a quick glance at your average power and do a little bit of mental maths as to what might be a 12% deficit from that. Okay, so 10 seconds, rev up the legs, get it going. No thinking again. Let's see if we can get somewhere near that power you put out in the last rep. Ready? Here we go, come on guys. Down, come on, power it through guys. Nice high cadence, over 100 RPM I would say, really sort of thrashing it out. Don't try and roll too big of a gear, not yet. When you get to that final sprint, you do what you like. For 30 seconds, so let's try and lift it, come on, pick it up. Well, 20 seconds, big sprint for the final 10. Ready, let's go, come on, big sprint, finish it off. Well done. So hopefully you remember to just quickly grab an eyeful of what your average power was for that interval. Don't worry, I will make sure you're adequately warned before this third interval, because it's the third interval in that you want to run the exhaustion protocol off, because basically the first two reps you are fresh, relatively fresh, and so they don't tend to be representative of what you can actually do in a race, because let's face it, you're never fresh when you're sprinting in a race. You're normally flooded with lactate already. So that's why we use the third interval as representative. The first two are usually a touch higher than you can actually repeat, and we're all about kind of being able to gauge what sort of power we can put out in a race. And it's useful because once you know that, you can understand that if you've chased a couple of wheels, or you've made a couple of breaks, you can just start to think, oh, okay, I've been around that number a couple of times now, I probably haven't got too many left in me, so I need to let somebody else chase. I think once you've got this type of knowledge about yourself, you can make smart decisions both in training and racing. That's kind of the whole point of the Power Ranking Project, if we're honest. It's just helping people to just be able to make a few smart decisions, about the way they train. And obviously we're always there to help if you need a little bit more of a steer. But yeah, rather than just going out every session and just smashing yourself, smashing yourself in an applied and focused way. That's what we're about. Okay, right then. So round 3 coming up in a 5 minutes time. Try to keep the fluids coming on board, just little sips at a time. Try not to take big gulps because we are going anaerobic. It means your digestive system is going to go hypoxic, so starved of oxygen, which means it's not going to be working very well. So you take on too much in the way of fluids, yeah, might ruin your nice lovely computer screen or TV or whatever you're using. Enough about that. Right then, 30 seconds, get your head back in the game, get ready to go.
Just spinning out. Try and bring your cadence back up above 80 each time in the recovery intervals. Will just help you recover by pedaling a little bit more efficiently. So right, let's get it going now. Rev the legs up, 10 seconds, and then you're going to go again. You've had 2 sighters. Now remember, this interval, you're following the exhaustion protocol. You want to take note of your average power at the end. But here we go. Come on, guys. Let's push it. Drive it, drive it, drive it. Nice high cadence, remember. Okay, let's lift it. Come out to halfway. Lift it, lift it, lift it. Twenty seconds, finishing sprint coming up in less than 10. Get ready for it. Finishing sprint coming up. Just remember at the end, grab a look at your average power for the interval. Ready? Come on, guys. Push it, push it, push it. Remember to grab that average power. There it goes up just very quickly. Now catch your breath before you start trying to do any mental maths. So if you're absolutely crap at maths like I am, just take 10% off that. Keep it simple for yourself. I wouldn't even dream of trying to work out 12%. But if you're better at maths, go ahead. I would need my abacus next to me, I think. So spinning up there, guys. So that's the third interval of using the exhaustion protocol. Take 10-12% off that. And that's your baseline, basically. Each rep, you have to get above that 10-12% drop off. You have to get above it each time. If you drop below it, that cut off, it's game over. And you just spend the rest of the session just chilling out, basically. Because the idea behind the exhaustion protocol is to make sure that your efforts are targeting the correct energy system. Basically, if you drop below that cut off, you start to drop down from zone 6, which is what we're focusing on. You start to drop away from that lactic acid system that we're trying to target. And you basically start to get more and more aerobic energy production as the power drops. And it just means that it's not as focused. You're not going to be kind of really pounding that energy system as much as you want, really, because there's always this constant battle between aerobic and anaerobic energy production, and the utilization of different substrates, etc. So yeah, it's a really useful thing in a exhaustion protocol. There's various different ones. I'm pretty sure that we have the full list of exhaustion protocols in the trainings and resources area on our website. I'm pretty certain I've put that up from previous sessions. So have a look at that. So if you're doing hill reps or whatever and they're 3 minutes long, have a look at that chart and it'll tell you kind of what your percentage drop off should be before you call it a day. And let's face it, any excuse to stop doing hill reps, well, when it comes to my athletes, they seem to jump at it. With a few exclusions, of course. Don't upset anyone. Right, 30 seconds till we go for round 4. So you know that 10-12% drop off now if you're doing the exhaustion protocol. If you're not, guys, just do what you fancy, We are working on speed endurance, so multiple reps is going to be good for you. Just might not be targeting that energy system specifically, but it's still a useful skill in the toolbox. So a few seconds to rev up the legs, get ready for round 4. You're going to be halfway through the planned set if you finish it. Come on in, guys. Rev it up. Let's go. Let's push it, guys. Let's push it. Come on. Seconds, let's lift it, you're halfway. 20. Okay, we're finishing sprint. At 10 seconds to go. Get ready for it, get ready for it. Spin up, lift leg speed. Mine's way too low. Here we go, 10 seconds, come on, sprint. 2, 1. Good guys, good, well done. So for those guys following along, don't worry if you drop behind a little bit. What can happen sometimes is that when you drop down from a sprint, your trainer will spin down, and you just might find that the workout pauses for a second or two whilst your trainer spins down, a little bit like a clutch on a car, basically. So yeah, don't worry about it. I wouldn't mess around skipping intervals to try and catch up. Just follow along. Hopefully it's not too annoying. You're slightly out of sync. Did actually used to be a feature on RGT where everybody was kept in sync. It was running off the timer on the host clock. I just love that. Just keep things so simple. Everybody was pretty much forced to roll at the same rate in terms of the plan. But I get why. Not everybody would like that. Not everyone is a coach trying to run sessions. Not anyway. Very saturated market, see? So just spinning up, guys. Hopefully you stayed within that 10-12% drop off. If you're bothered about it, otherwise, guys, you're halfway. Got four more of those to go, and I've got to be honest. It's usually after rep 3 that I find that it kind of gets a little bit easier. You're nice and warm. You know what you're dealing with. You know what gear to run. You can start to pace it a little bit better, which is not really what we want. We don't actually want you pacing it, but whether you like it or not, subconsciously you will start to pace it a little bit better. What we really want is just full gas effort like you would in a race, not really thinking about it, but yeah, you can't help but do it, really. And yeah, it starts to become hopefully more of a sadistic pain rather than just bloody painful. And you know, your lungs are bursting. You kind of understand what it's about. They're about 40 seconds. Then we're on to round 5. Just keeping it going, guys. Just kind of dragging out every last drop of wattage, a drop of power to stay within that 10-12% drop off. Or just kind of getting your power roughly where it has been on the previous reps. No, you don't necessarily always have to complicate it, particularly if you're not super experienced or care about the data too much. So 10 seconds to go. Come on, rev it up now, guys. Come on. Get ready to drop in that big gear. Ready? Want a nice high cadence. Probably upwards of 100 RPM. Here we go. Come on. Try not to get suckered into rolling a big heavy gear. You've still got a few reps after this. If you get stuck into a big heavy gear, rolling at sort of 60, 70 RPM, it's going to tire out more quickly. So get those legs going and get this driven all the way to the end. 40 seconds. Coming out to halfway through the interval already. Okay, lift it, 30 seconds to go. Come on, guys. This is anaerobic capacity, the maximum volume, the maximum work you can do in an anaerobic state. So do not allow yourself to drop out of an anaerobic state. Just keep driving, keep pushing. 15 seconds. Get ready to sprint, finish it off. 2, 1, here we go, come on. And relax. There we go. Well done, guys. I'm not even probably doing this session. I feel like I'm breathing through a straw. Hope you guys are getting on well with it. I find these sessions go either way, really. They either really invigorate you, you know, you feel strong and you're just like, yeah, give me more. Or other times you're just like, why? Why am I doing this to myself? The reason is, guys, speed endurance. That's why you're doing it. building that speed and endurance, that ability to keep going, to kick again and again and again. And to be frank, that's what wins e-races in particular. It all comes down to who can go that last time, who can go and keep their power up to where it should be. That's what wins e-races, that's what wins those sort of, those types of events. Okay, similar to crit racing, cyclocross. I've been doing a lot of cyclocross this season, this year, end of this year. Oh, bloody love it, such good fun. If you like e-racing, guys, cyclocross I would say is it's pretty much the real world equivalent. It's just batshit insane. Sprinting from the start. Yeah, just every 30 seconds is another sprint basically. A lot like e-racing. So personally, I like to use e-racing and cyclocross together to try and, you know, just get to. So I'm actually a triathlete really. Boo hiss, I know. But yeah, I love to do a bit of cyclocross and e-racing to get me through the winter, so that my top end power is nice and pumped up. So when I get to the triathlon season, you know, I can then start to work on my endurance fitness, my endurance capacity, with a nice strong FTP and some nice anaerobic conditioning behind me. Although I am going to be focusing on more bike racing this year, more short course racing and triathlon. Right then, 40 seconds. So last sip of water, and make sure it isn't just a sip. We're getting ready to go. Bring that cadence upwards of 80 RPM again. 30 seconds. Come on, guys. Get through this interval, and there's just 2 more to go. For me, that's always a motivator. Always know that when there's 2 left, I can keep going. To get through this one, I always see it as like the, you know, I've used this phrase a lot, but that tipping point. You know you're within touching distance of the finish. So 10 seconds, rev up the legs, get ready to drop the hammer. Ready? 5, 3, 2, 1. Okay, off we go then, guys, come on. This is all about seeing how many matches you got to burn. This type of session is going to tell you a lot about yourself and how it might apply in a race. Come on, turn and burn it. Come on, guys. Come on, 30 seconds, get ready to lift. Come on, 30, lift, 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 lift. Finish strong, finish strong. Last 10, come on, finishing sprint. Let's go, let's go. Two, 1. Keep going if you're a little bit behind. Just drive it all the way to the end. Well done, everyone. Just 2 more to go. If you got into this point, obviously if you're taking it super serious, bear in mind that exhaustion protocol on the 3rd rep. But if not, you got 2 left. Hey. I'm not that anyone's going to be retaining much information right now. We're trying to recover from that, but just to clarify that thing with your exhaustion protocol, you basically got 2 ways of doing this session. You got the first, which is applying that exhaustion protocol, so you're purely focusing in on that anaerobic capacity, that lactic acid system. Or the second way is just to do as many reps as you feel like, essentially, and working on that repeatability there. Because let's face it, in a race, you're not just going to give up because you can't hit within 10% of your anaerobic capacity. So there's 2 ways to apply this session, and we use it in both ways when we're training our athletes. Just depends who they are and what they're doing. So if you are sticking with us trying to finish out all 8 reps, don't you worry, this is high quality stuff and you're going to get a lovely, lovely benefit from it. albeit you might just hate me a little bit more. Just spinning up, getting the leg speed above 80 RPM. Again, it's really important that you try and spin up in between the intervals. You don't want to relax too much, it'll then be harder to get yourself going again, and also picking up the cadence and just pedaling a bit more efficiently will just help with the recovery, help flush out some of the crap building up in your muscles. Right then, 2 more, we're on to the penultimate effort, okay? That means just 1 more after this, and you can drag yourself through that, okay? So do not quit now. Let's finish this off. Right then, bring the legs back online, 30 seconds to go till we hit the penultimate 1 minute effort. Just loving the waves as people go past. It's nice. Okay, 10 seconds, get ready. Ready guys, let's get ready to go. Okay, here we go, come on. Lift it, lift it, lift it. Oh, push, 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 push. Come up to halfway, get ready to lift it. Ready, 30 seconds, come on, lift, 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 lift. Push it, push it, push it. Here we go again at 10. Try and maintain this level. Ready, ready. Car kick, 10 seconds, come on, drive it all the way to the line. Well done, keep driving it. If you're a little bit behind, just keep pushing all the way to the end, whatever your timer is telling you. Oh, just 1 more to go. I bet when you start the session you saw all your 8 reps and you're just like, oh, screw this guy. I might look like it, so I'm a pathetic little dweeb now. I used to play a lot of rugby. I used to love these types of efforts, explosive anaerobic efforts. I do like doing these in my bike training. It just reminds me of kind of fartlek training around the rugby pitch. Obviously if I tried to do that now, albeit being a triathlete, don't do much running like that, probably explode. You just see like birds flying out the trees as my hamstrings explode or something. So you do find that people have a natural affinity one way or the other. You know, if someone's muscle makeup is naturally, you know, perhaps they played a lot of team sports when they're growing up, or just genetically have a nice a nice fast switch muscle fiber spread, you might just find that people like that are good at this stuff. Really just naturally annoyingly good at this stuff. Or as I say, or I mentioned them earlier, those types of people that have their sort of diesel engines. And that's kind of what this power ranking project is about, is figuring out initially what type of rider you are at the moment. You know, obviously we all have our genetic dispositions, but you can train things either way of the spectrum to a certain extent. You just might, you know, might be better or worse than your friends at it. And it's about finding where what your balance is like, and maybe even finding your niche and structuring your training, your event selection that way. So for instance, you know, we got athletes who are just absolute power monsters but aren't great in the climbs, and so we will select events specifically on that basis. Particularly if they're triathletes, you know, we'll probably pick a flat course, you know, one that's quite technical maybe to suit their skill set, exploding out of corners, etc., where they can utilize that anaerobic power, that sort of thing. all this stuff does matter. Let's just kind of give you the extra tools to take things to the next level. Let's make you a smarter athlete, basically. Right then, final set. Coming up, 10 seconds, rev up the legs. One last blast, get the adrenaline going. It's the final one of the session, then you are done. 3, 2, 1, hit it. Let's go, come on. Final rep of the session. Let's drag that power that you had. Let's search the basement for those reserves. Come on, lift it, lift it, lift it. Get that leg speed nice and high. Don't get suckered into a big, heavy gear. Let's ride efficiently. Take moment of the voice. Thirty seconds, let's lift, 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 lift. Come on, pick it up. Get ready to engage the warp drive. At 10 seconds to go. Ready, guys, come on. Get ready to push it one last time. Here we go, come on. 5, 3, 2, 1. Whew. Here you go, if you've got finished, keep driving all the way to the end. You see a few people on RGT still pumping it out. Keep going all the way. Well done, guys. Really good stuff, everyone. Really good stuff. That is just one of those kind of blunt instrument type sessions. If you're a surgeon, it's definitely not the scalpel. This is where we get a surgeon come on and say, actually, scalpel is not a precision instrument. Good stuff, everybody. Well done. Okay, so we've just got a few minutes till the cool down. I'll stick around, of course, for any questions. But guys, that's about testing your 1 minute power. So the key until there is your average power for that first 1 minute effort. Head on to Training Peaks or whatever platform you use to kind of manage or have a look at your training after the set. Yeah, average 1 minute power. That hopefully, if you've never done anything like that before, that will be your new peak power. Or if you have the platform or software to analyze it, see how it compares with previous 1 minute efforts. But basically, guys, just write it down. You know, I've got a little post-it note here with all my peak powers. I'm not going to show you them. But yeah, I've just got them written here. So basically, when I come to another session with a 1 minute anaerobic effort like this, I know what I need to beat or try and match, basically. And just means you can be competitive with yourself. And that's another thing to mention. You know, this power ranking project, it's not all about being competitive with other people. You know, what we do want to establish is kind of good training methods. And one of the things, you know, we've done tonight is getting that erg mode off. When you're doing anaerobic training, in my opinion, erg mode should pretty much never be on. Because if you're doing max level efforts, you don't really want erg mode limiting you, or if you're on a bad day, kind of forcing you to hit a power you just can't reach. So, yeah, if you're ever doing sprint efforts or full gas efforts in a training session, personally, I would suggest erg mode going off. There are a few exceptions. But yeah, because you don't want it to limit you. You want, hopefully, to be able to track your personal best over time. So, you know, say you did this session in sort of 6 weeks' time after a nice block of training, hopefully, you'd see an improvement in that 1 minute average power. That's what it's about. Okay, so make sure you've got a note of these somewhere, these powers that we're collecting, this data, so when you come to similar sessions, you know, you can be competitive with yourself. But there you go, guys. That's week 3 done. Week 4, just before we disappear, let's have a quick little look-see at that. So this is the final one before Christmas, just FYI. We are back on the 9th of January, and we've got a Canary Wharf Sprint Challenge. Okay, so more about that will come on social media and the RGT user groups. But yeah, that basically, guys, we're going to have a little bit of fun with that one, a little bit of racing. So 9th of January, come join us for that one, because that is going to be a lot of fun. I'm hoping I'll be able to join that session myself, actually. Yeah, nothing like a bit of sprint racing. Yeah, but that'd be great fun. But yeah, cheers guys. Any questions, just shout. Otherwise, have yourself a lovely evening, and we'll see you in what's that, a couple of weeks, isn't it? Yeah. Have a good Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, or have a nice holiday, depending on whatever it is you follow. There you go, guys. Take care.